always been it. The real question to be asked, where have I been? I'm a sharpshooter, I post masquerade, hiding both face and mind, afraid for you to draw. I'm a sharpshooter, what else should I be? Please don't take off my mask, revealing dark. Moments of calm, nothing left to be found. A mirror right in front of me, that's where I found an empty glass, reflecting that's a truth. It's telling words not to be told. I need the mask. I can't tell you how to see me. Just a cage of bones. There's nothing inside. Will it always be burning down the walls? Is there a way for me to break? I'm a sharpshooter at post masquerade, hiding both face and mind, afraid for you to draw. I'm a sharpshooter, have no face to show. Please don't take off my mask, my disguise.
All right, let's get rid of the loop there, or not the loop, the monitor. Hey friends, it's good to see you this I guess it's Father's Day today. Hopefully people had a wonderful time with their families or being celebrated, or maybe today is a difficult day, which carries some pain and challenge. And it's just another painful reminder of something you're missing or something that wasn't there. Wherever you find yourself today, I hope that you have space for it and it is good. But anyway, welcome to Haven Motel. This is a reoccurring live stream that happens every Sunday, weekly. And my purpose of running this is a response to this feeling like there is no space for people to share or communicate their feelings. And so maybe if it's an anonymous space, maybe people will share. And I also want to offer some element of peer support as I'm going through this journey of learning what it means to be autistic, neurodivergent, and want to share that with you who is and those who aren't, so that they might have a better picture of the world that we experience. And so, yeah, today I wanted to talk about burnout And then I wanted to more specifically talk about autistic burnout and the difference between the two different types of burnout. And so I'll just pull out my notes. First of all, if this is your first time here, like I said, all those things about this stream are true. And yeah, I would love for you to come up. And so the way that I've been doing that is I have a QR code and a link, which you are able to scan, or you go to the link, prove your camera and your microphone, and I will bring you up on stage and we can have a discussion and you can talk about the topic, whatever is going on. Oops. 1 second. And sorry, I need to mute that. Of course, I get so distracted so easily. There we go. Got my notes back up. Sorry. So yeah, join the QR code, join the link, and anyone that's here is welcome to participate in the stream, whether it's something I'm saying, whether it's your own personal experience. It could not even be related to the topic at hand. I just like having a focus so that I can talk about something because most of the time no one has really joined and had a conversation. So far it's just been people like lurking and participating. And so yeah, feel free to jump up if you'd like and discuss at any point where your thoughts or opinions on burnout, and then subsequently autistic burnout. So burnout, what is it? I believe that burnout is something that happens when you have too much of one thing that is not life-giving over the things that are life-giving in your life. And so that you focus on the sorry, I keep getting texts and it goes right into my headset, so it's distracting. So you focus on okay, my goodness, I need to mute that. I don't know how at the moment. It doesn't matter. So life-giving, not life-giving. So for example, you could be at a job and you really love one aspect of your job, but most of the time you're doing another thing. That might lead to this sense of burnout at your job where it's like you disintegrate from your sense of self. And so what ends up happening is the thing that you're doing starts not having any sense of fulfillment. It might become difficult. You might start asking, like, why am I even doing this? I think it happens to all of us, especially when we live in this culture of hyper independence and we don't have I would say we really don't take into consideration mental health until more recently. I think COVID did a really good job at illuminating the need and the importance of mental health. People that never really experienced any negative or depression, or because COVID kind of blew away everyone's expectations of where they were at, what they wanted in life. Jobs that were secure were not, a lot of identity changing, a lot of questions being asked. And so as those wrestles took place, yeah. And so burnout also happens when we do get run rampant in life. We become busy and we just exist and we don't actually take care of ourselves. Whether that's too much time on a computer screen or phones and social media. I mean, social media in general is just not the greatest for us. It's a culture of comparisons and negativity, which are all influenced by an algorithm that gets pushed to you. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Burnout is not fun. especially when it comes with the hand in hand in depression, when you get to a debilitation in the burnout. Some people can burn out and change something or work on something for a little bit and then they go. But there's burnout where you become depressed. And I actually believe that depression isn't a negative thing. It's almost like all these different parts of ourselves know that we are incongruent with each other, like ourselves. And so it kind of forces us to stop doing the thing that's kind of, it's like we're internally bleeding, and it's like, you need to address this. And so it like kind of, our bodies kind of shut down and stop being productive. Unfortunately though, why is my camera doing that? Okay, I'm on. You can do it. Yeah, there we go. I don't know why it's unfocusing. It's an older camera. That's probably why. So yeah, it's not fun. It's not good. It's a miserable experience. It feels like death. It feels like it's always going to feel the way that it is. You've lost your passion for what brought you life and joy, and it's never coming back. That's the one lie that you kind of hear in that space and time, that what you love is gone forever. It's never going to be the way it was again, which isn't true, but it definitely feels that way when you're in the midst of it. And so and so I burnt out. I had a job where my job was to connect with street entrenched teens from the ages of 12 to 24. And it was more challenging and more fatiguing than I realized. So I didn't have that part of myself getting addressed, but then the other side, I was doing way too much of things that just didn't bring me life. And so that mix kind of left me in a place where I kind of was done with what I was doing. And it just felt like the thing that I used to enjoy, which was connecting with these young people, was gone forever, which is a horrible thing when it's like this is like my, my eyes light up and my heart comes to life, and now it's gone. And then the compassion fatigue from reoccurring exposing of significant and very impactful trauma, not having a place to be processed, to work through. Even though I have I'm really good at, like when I was there, I could separate the person from myself. There would still be little bits and pieces that add up over time, and eventually I just ran out. And so I remember during that time I contacted a psychologist, and I have no idea why or how, but I still see him to this day on a very much ongoing basis, which has been incredible. It's something that I am incredibly privileged to have and experience. And through that experience, I've learned a lot of key skills and abilities and ways of relating to my thoughts and feelings, especially as someone who tends to be more anxious and more in a place of a depression because of the way that I think and operate. All or nothing, black and white thinking. A lot of things have happened in my life, and so it's led me to have to survive in particular ways. And those skills that I learned when I was younger, I didn't realize had an impact on myself now. There was a lot of fear driving a lot of those skills, and so the fear was influencing a lot of what I did. Depression is miserable. if anyone that has ever been depressed, and I'm not talking about depression where you can get over it in a couple, and not saying that is any less valid, but what I'm saying is I'm talking about the depression where you are in the middle of it and then you stop and realize that it's not going away. It's not, and it feels like it's going to be there forever, but you realize that this is something that you can't solve, you can't fix, you can't bring any resolution to. There is no magic phrase or word. It's like you have to go through it in order to experience and find healing. That is a miserable place to be. It feels like your car is just stuck in a rut and you can't go anywhere. And it feels like you try and be as productive as possible. You try and distract yourself by binge watching or drinking or doing harmful narcotics or aggressive, whatever, anything to try and either distract or to make you feel something again. Because when I was depressed, and I was depressed for a period of like I would say my entire life, but debilitating depression for a period of at least 3 years. Color left the world. I'm not even kidding. Like it just became like the color all existed, but it was like it was void. And I don't know how else to describe it. And then you have to wrestle with a lot of other things, like you are an incredible weight during that time to the people around you. They have to carry a load that if they're not prepared to carry, or if they don't have space for, or they try and they don't have good boundaries and other skills, then it can be bad too. In my depression, I felt like a burden to everyone. I was like, I want something more than this for the people around me. And then you start going through thoughts of, maybe it would be better if I'm not around. And you have to wrestle with that day in and day out. And so this burnout is like you trying to keep this flame going. It's like flickering. But in my experience, there's almost like a surrender or it gets to the point, burnout is like when it gets to the point where you literally can't do anything and you have to face the reality that is the case and you can't do anything about it. Like, doesn't matter if you want to work or you want to do, stuff around the house, or you want to talk and connect with people. What's interesting actually is about how your nervous system does things in response to these experiences. So your nervous system, in what I've read, it disconnects the part of your brain that makes connection to things. So the truths that you held in your life and the connections to others are gone because your body is just trying to survive. And so you start to feel alone and isolated, even though that might not be the reality. You feel like you're the only one who's experiencing these thoughts and feelings. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of stigma. That's the word I was looking for. Sorry. I'm also fidgeting. With mental health, with the concept of burnout, you feel ashamed. You feel like you failed. You feel like you should be able to. There's a lot of shoulds, and I should be able to and you beat the living crap out of yourself because you're not able to do it. So miserable experience all around. And I don't know if anyone else has ever experienced burnout. There's also opportunity in it, I think, because you can either go back to the way things were, probably not though, because you burnt out, or you can sit and look at these things and decide a different path. And as painful as it is, it does get better. The storm passes they say this too shall pass. I never liked that saying though, because if you think about it, and I think this was the purpose of that saying, this too shall pass, as cliche as it is, also is talking about good things, right? You could say that about joy and positive things that are happening. This will pass as well. So, but yeah, we live in a world where we are going to experience pain and suffering and sorrow, and especially with how things are now in terms of economic situations and what is going to be necessary for people in the future, unemployment wise, etc. Things are going to get challenging and difficult. And so just something to be aware of. But so anyway, burnout. So what does this have to do with autism? What does this have to do with neurodivergence, whatever, like, or being neurodivergent? What does that have to do with any of that, right? Well, what if I told you that with autistic burnout, it isn't something that you can, like, what is it? What was I going to say? I wrote notes and I forgot what I was going to say. That's fantastic. Autistic burnout isn't something that is as a result of, I mean, it probably, there are significant aspects of mental health and like all these other things that are going on, but I think, and so, okay, so going back a little bit, the reason, so I went through 3+ years of depression, anxiety, severe depression. I'm talking about like not being able to get out of the bed depression for multiple, and something would happen and it would shut me down for a week or a couple of weeks. Couldn't go to work, couldn't go to staff meetings, couldn't do anything. That type of depression. What I've come to realize, or what I think I've come to realize, is because I've gone through that. I now like and love who I am, which was a big part of why I wrestled with that, was a sense of identity. Like I did feel like a burden to everyone. And I didn't realize it was because, I was autistic. I beat the absolute living crap out of myself because I couldn't do things like everyone else could. I couldn't live up to the expectations that seemingly easy, amazing things that people could do naturally. I couldn't do it, and I didn't understand why. And when I talked to people, they would hear different things and they would be angry and upset, and I didn't understand why. And I couldn't do a job properly, or I felt like I was working as hard as I could and it wasn't fast enough, or I would forget what I'm saying in the middle of like all of these like things like added up to just this feeling like I just don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be living in this life. It's exhausting. And the thing is, I was right. I just didn't know what it was. I didn't know where this feeling, these things came from. But the good news is, because I've gotten a diagnosis and because I've learned to be my authentic self, and I'm learning that, and I'm learning how to advocate for myself from my needs in a value-based approach, I'm not anxious nearly as much, and I'm not depressive nearly as much. And I still face even worse things in my life in some ways, but I'm in a way better place. And I think it's because I have a better understanding. And so there's this concept within the autistic community, and I think it's in the medical now, but there's this thing called masking. And it's something that neurodivergent individuals, autistic individuals in particular, do. I actually think everyone masks. So the neurotypicals, which just means they're not on a spectrum of any sort, they mask, but it's in a social way where they put on different, like, for example, when I talk to somebody, whether it's my best friend or um, or my boss or someone I just met, I kind of talk to them the same way. I would say the same things, have the same vulnerability. But with them, it's like they put on different masks, different personas, different ways of being in interacting with each other. But with autistic masking, it's a bit different because so, and I want to make a video about this, and I will in the future. But we live, autistics, non-autistics live in separate worlds. And what I mean, it's almost like we're in different operating systems. Their PCs, we're Macs, or whichever one you prefer, or Xbox or PlayStation. They do similar things. They operate in some of the same ways, but the way that they do some of those operations is completely different and for different reasons. That's what it's like. But now, so the problem is, imagine you live in a world where what's important is being this social, like having this social hierarchy. Like I want to connect people and make friends and establish my, I don't know, whatever. That seems to be what is more relevant to the neurotypical experience. With the autistic experience, it is much more literal. It's much more intentional. It's much more and less about that stuff. But if both sides are approaching a topic like, let me think here, I actually wonder if identity is one that I think about. So, and this could be wrong, and maybe it's a way too big of a broad generalization, but my experience with autistic individuals, and I work with lots, and I interact with lots, and I spend a lot of time trying to digest and like just absorb as much information. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, but what I'm saying, like even now I'm masking when I'm saying all this stuff before I say something, because if I don't say that, people get angry and upset at me for some reason, even though I'm delivering information from a place that I feel is valid and true because of the information or the amount of research and time I've spent on it. Anyway, that's masking, but I'll get to that. So, shoot, and now I've lost my train of thought. It was, identity, the sense of identity. What if autistic individuals, their sense of identity is different than neurotypicals, where we get our identity from who we are and our values more so than the neurotypical experience, which is what they do and their social, their connections, their status. I'm not saying one is wrong or not. I think it's just different, right? So we approach the same topic. This is just an example. I can come up with others. We approach the same topic, use the same English language, but why and how we approach that topic of, say, identity is different, right? So now imagine like autistics live in a world where the same things that you filter your biases, like through the same thing that neurotypicals filter biases through, even the way that they process emotions and thoughts is different, right? And so the problem is, though, that there are so many neurotypicals compared to neurodivergent individuals that they've pathologized thinking. And this is very interesting. So thinking is this is what it means to be right, like thinker. And this isn't to say being autistic means that we're just different. I'm not going in that direction. I say we are just different, but we still have debilitating, it is a medical diagnosis for a reason. There are things within it that make life particularly challenging. But anyway, the social, or sorry, what was I going to say? Not the social, what am I saying? Man, see, I think I have like 10 billion, it feels like 10 billion thoughts in my head. I'm trying to maintain a path of connection because it's like I'm translating through my lens to a different language. And I have to think about that consciously before I talk about things instead of just speaking. It's why I think I forget things. Anyway, so we live in a world where myself being autistic isn't okay because the way that I go about things isn't understood by the neurotypicals. And so an example of this, I always go to eye contact. It's my favorite because I really struggle with it, which is interesting because eye contact, usually when people like, and a psychologist that I was listening to the other day said, even neurotypicals don't give eye contact all the time. When they're thinking, they're looking around. But if so eye contact for neurotypicals means you're listening, you're paying attention, you're being honest, you're interested in the topic. For me, it's I think about there's this picture on the internet where two eyes are actually touching and having eye contact. That is what it is. That kind of uncomfortability of that image, I wish I could pull it up, is, maybe I can actually find it. One sec. Because I want to show you what it's like for me to give eye contact. Let's see here. Sorry, one second. Maybe this can help you. Because a lot of autistics actually talk about how uncomfortable eye contact can be, but to neurotypicals, they don't really get or understand it. It doesn't make sense to them. Why would that be challenging? And it's a brain thing in my mind. It's not just I'm socially awkward or have difficulty having a conversation where I have to look you in the eyes. Why can't I find this image? Oh, it's because I'm not on Google. DuckDuckGo. Does anyone use that? It's important that I show this because I want you to, this is a summary of, yeah, here we go. Let's see if I can pull something up on stream right while I'm running. Okay. This is what eye contact is like for me, right? This is what it feels like. As a literal thinker and speaker. Sorry, I was trying to put it over my face so you'd have to look me in the eyes. As a literal thinker and speaker, this picture right here is really funny to me when you say eye contact. That's what it means. But also what it feels like, it's like it can feel like that for a lot of autistic individuals. For me, it's not that bad, but it's something then I have to consciously now be aware about rather than just having a conversation. And I've developed, I don't know, some other senses, or I just use body language in a different way. I don't need those tools that are used to be able to tell if someone's listening or paying attention. Anyway, so all I'm trying to establish is there's a difference, right? So you look at what autistic individuals are doing, and you're like, this doesn't make sense to me. Therefore, it is something that is outside of this box of normal. Therefore, it is a disorder, whatever else you want to add to it, when really, another good example I like to give is this concept called stimming. So I have what's called a fidget tool. And people, when I was younger, if I had something in my hands or I was sitting at my desk when I was a kid at school, I would people would get upset. They'd think I wasn't paying attention, wasn't interested. I clearly didn't care. Or I wouldn't be taking notes. And the teachers took that very personally. Like, how dare you not take notes in my class? But they didn't realize that the very act of me taking notes takes so much effort in my mind, like where I could write down notes, but then I would sit at the end and be like, what the heck was I writing? What does this mean? Because I wasn't able to listen and pay attention and engage in it. And so there's this difficulty that takes place. Again, these perceptions of things. And so imagine the world is different for autistic individuals, where everything we do is processed differently. We operate in different ways. And in order to be accepted or acceptable to others in this world, we need to act like you. We need to walk and talk. And I think about the song from the Jungle Book. I would sing it, but I'm terrible at singing. But you know the one I'm talking about. I hope. And that's what it feels like. And everything within us just wants to feel normal and belong. And so at a very young age, we learn very quickly not to express ourselves, to stop talking, to stop essentially existing in a way, because if we do, it causes problems, it causes tensions. People get angry. They think that we're doing something through that lens, through the neurotypical lens, when it's really through ours, and it makes sense and it's relevant. I didn't get to talk about stimming. I was going to. Again, I just jumped to a topic. And maybe I'll come back to it as regulation and stuff. Anyway, so yeah, when I was younger, I stopped talking. I stopped sharing my opinions, because for me, when I share or when I ask questions, for example, I'm trying to find something out. It's a simple thing. But to the world outside me, apparently when I ask questions, it means I'm questioning authority. I'm trying to burn it all down. It's so confusing. So I stop asking questions. Or I would talk and say things. But if you know autistic individuals, and I'm only speaking for myself and not all of them, it's a spectrum, one individual, you only know one, but very literal thinkers. And so when I speak, I'm saying things literally. When others speak, they attach these hidden meanings and words and phrases. And so what I learn is to stop speaking, because I don't do that, but people get angry. And then I have struggles with executive functioning. I get angry at myself because I can't do dishes or cook or clean or do things around the house. And people in my life get angry at me in the past. Or, going to school and I think we can thrive because it's very structured. We're told what to do, where to go, and how to do it. We're given all the course modules and things, but then you go to the real world and it's not like that. I've learned strategies and skills now in order to do all of those things, but it's still a challenge. And then there are other things. Oh yeah, I'll come to stimming. So there are other stims, and actually all humans do this. We all stim. If you paste around on the phone while you're talking, if you talk with your hands, sorry, I bumped the microphone. If you yawn when you're not tired, it's all a sense of self-regulation. Autistic individuals, they do this too, but it looks different and the frequency is different. So you might have someone tapping on objects or tables, or you might have someone, chewing on something or holding something in their hands, like going crazy with it, or pacing back and forth, or um, a whole multitude of things, because the world is very difficult to live in. And so we need to regulate ourselves on a constant basis. And it's difficult because we have to live in it, in our minds, in a different way. We become something else. And the problem is, we were not designed to be like you guys, to be neurotypicals. That's just not the case. And I'm not making a separation or difference so that, like, I'm saying one is better than the other, or all I'm doing is trying to highlight that there are differences that make life a bit more challenging in different ways. The world, it's kind of like we go to school, right? We all are told to sit down and shut up and pay attention to the class, because if you don't, then you're unproductive, or you're a troublemaker and you need to be punished or fixed or corrected or whatever else it might be, when it's simply that we all don't learn in that way. Some people are audio learners, some people are visual, some people need it to be explained, some people need to read it. We approach everything through this giant bell curve of, this is, everyone can fit in this, and this is how it's supposed to be and what's normal. But what we're learning, thankfully, finally, is that we have diversity of minds and brains and ways of even learning. It would be like me telling someone, with glasses, to stop wearing glasses because I'm uncomfortable with it, because it's different and I don't understand it. I don't see the world through your eyes. So why should you be able to wear glasses? I don't understand or get it. Take those off. Take off those glasses, because I can see perfectly fine. That's what it's kind of like. And what happens is, over time, they actually say that autistic individuals suffer from CTPSD. It's basically the same trauma being lived over and over and over and over again, because we keep, and so it's either we shut down and die, or we eventually shut down and die because we can't be like you guys, the neurotypicals. We can't do it. It's impossible. And in an instant, it's actually been studied in more recent, I think, 2018 study, where neurotypicals know almost instantaneously if someone's autistic, and they treat them worse because of that if there isn't an actual dialogue that takes place. They know something within themselves and they treat us worse. This is empirically studied. I'm not making this up. The interesting thing is, what I've come to learn through getting a diagnosis is that I masked my entire life. I tried to be something else because I was so desperate to just be loved and accepted, to be enough for someone, that I was willing to do whatever, overcompensate, be a perfectionist. And it wasn't enough for people. And now that I've got a diagnosis, I realize, and what's been really wonderful for me, and this is why I like diagnosis. Some people say, why would you get that? It doesn't change anything. What it changes is it validates my story and lets me be like, yeah, no, I know that I'm not going to get better in this area. I mean, I'm going to try and grow in it, but I can give myself grace and just focus on the things that I'm good at, what I'm passionate about, and the way I am, that I bring about in the world, that is unique and different. I've stopped masking, and fortunately I work at an employer who knows some of those things. And so how do we stop masking? how do you stop living in this place where you have to feel like you need to be like everyone else? How do I would say where it starts is, you start to know yourself. Get to know who you are, who you actually are, not all of these other parts of yourself that are not real. Because imagine if you spent your whole life being something other than you weren't, and there was always a part of you that was fighting to exist, but it wasn't able to have that space. You wouldn't know how to be. Who is you? Who are you actually? That's where I would start. And once you start going through that process of understanding who you are, I believe that you start to get to know, like for myself, for example, I know now that I need someone to tell me what tasks to do, for example. And that sounds really silly, but if you are someone that struggles with context, and you are someone who struggles with conscious context, and you struggle with executive functioning and task ordering and knowing kind of what to do. If someone tells me, for example, I need you to clean the house, everyone else seems to figure out what that means and is fine with it, or they make assumptions and fill in the blanks. For myself, what does that mean? What does that look like? And then when I was younger, I would think I was doing it in one way, but it wasn't that way. And then people get upset and angry at me. So what would have been better, though, is, hey, can you give me a list of tasks, right? Give me a list. Here, so, okay, cleaning the house means you vacuum, you sweep, you clean the bathrooms. What does that mean? You clean the mirrors, you clean the floors, you clean the shower, you clean the toilets. And this is how you do it. Suddenly it makes sense. It's like I can do those things again. So that's a simple accommodation. At my work, they will give me tasks to do. Can you, like, I'll show up, or usually I meet with my supervisor, and like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but if there are more things, it's like, can you tell me what you would like? Give me a goal for this time, and then I'll go and do it. They also know that I struggle with eye contact, and there's no expectations that I do it, and nobody seems to care that I don't give it to them. They know that it's just naturally a part of interacting with me. It's a skill I've learned, which I coin or phrase setting the stage for people. And so I have an incredible privilege of the place I work, where I can share that I'm autistic. I mean, it's literally my job to share that I'm autistic, and my perspectives and thoughts about that, as well as neurodivergent. But maybe you don't have that same luxury. Maybe you're in a place in your life where it's not safe to do that, or you feel like you're going to lose your job, or you're going to teacher's not going to get it. People aren't going to understand. You're in a marriage, and your husband or wife isn't going to get it. I don't know where you're at. Because we're literal thinkers, because we can be all or nothing sometimes. Here's a happy medium or place I like to tell people. So setting the stage. What does that mean? Setting the stage is, so you can set the stage where you share these things, but it doesn't. This is where I think autistics struggle, where I struggle, because we love being authentic to ourselves, but we also mask. There's a lot of paradoxes. It's a high value, so we might share our diagnosis. We might tell people we're autistic, but maybe you're not in that place. So instead, could it be, hey, just so you know, I really struggle with prioritizing tasks. What would be helpful for me is you just lining those up, like telling me what to do, and I'll be able to do it really well if you give me a list of, like, a to-do list. So I don't have to disclose a diagnosis, but I can also ask for my needs to be met. I think with autistic individuals, we're so used to just putting our heads down and just suffering through whatever it is that we do not have a self-importance. We don't have any sense of worth. And I'm not saying all are like that, but imagine you're in a world where you're just constantly feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you're this alien, broken. Like, of course you would wrestle with that stuff. I'm not saying everyone is like that, but having a sense of worth comes from knowing yourself. Who am I really? What am I passionate about? What are my values? What's important to me? Not everyone else, me, right? So, how do we stop masking? Another way is by setting boundaries. We really struggle with saying no to people, at least in my experience. Just saying no and leaving it at no, not coming up with a giant justification or explanation of just no, I'm not going to do that. I still struggle to this day with that. I'll say yes to things that I know I don't have the capacity or space to do and I'm working on it really, really hard now. But I didn't do that in the past because I was just so desperate for some sense of validation of myself. I'll just do it. I'll do these things, even though I don't have the skills, or it was incredibly like it would induce more of that feeling of burnout or exhaustion. Because at the end of the day, you get home and you're just exhausted from existing. Like, and I'm not talking about, oh, work was hard. I worked 12 hours today. I'm talking about like just getting out your door and then you're assaulted by noise and sounds that are all over the place, and you have no filter on all of that, and you're going about your day, and you want to talk to people, but they don't want to talk about things that are interesting to you. They just want to talk about the weather that they can see out their window, or you have to act a certain way. You have to, okay, I'm giving eye contact. Okay, so maybe I looked, 5 seconds, I'll look away, then I'll do another 5 seconds. Autistic individuals have a lot of scripts. They figure out what is safe to say, what is acceptable, and then they remember those things, or they watch it on TV and they watch these interactions, and then they and I've done this where I have these like conversations are almost, it feels like a chess game, but it's not a chess game. It's like this process that is unnatural because I'm thinking about all of these things all at the same time. So it's exhausting. Boundaries are important because if you engage in things that you don't have the space for, or if it just adds to that, having space for yourself, asking for help, asking for those accommodations. Seriously, one of the pieces of knowledge I got in the past is if you don't ask, then you're saying no for the person. You're already saying no. Or what's the saying? You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Think about the scene from The Office where Michael Scott quotes Wayne Gretzky as that, him being his quote. You miss 100% of the shot. If you don't ask people, they can't read your mind, and they certainly don't understand the world you come from, and maybe they won't get it, right? But hopefully they value you as a person, because I know the autistic individuals that I'm speaking to or who watch this in the future, I know you care about people, right? And you go out of your way. You're meeting people 90% of the way, and you're just asking for 10%. You're just, please, like, give me space to just be myself in this one area. I get that. And it can be hard to do that. I think, like anything, it's a skill that is learned over time and practiced. Start with small things, very, very tiny things, very tiny adjustments, so that you can be successful, so you can thrive. Because here's the secret: anyone can thrive with the right environment, right? And these skills, these things aren't just for autistic individuals, but anyone can use that to have accommodations or needs met. Anyway, the other thing I talked about last week, which I find highly important, is building intentional, fully unmasked time, almost like you're a werewolf. Like when the full moon rises, you you have to go away and chain yourself up in a cave so you don't go out and see people. That's what it could feel like, but you need that time. If you live in a world where it's that exhausting, like, find space and time to just be your full unmasked authentic autistic neurodivergent self, right? For me, that means I sing, or I might dance, or I might talk out loud, or laugh, or sometimes when I watch shows, it's like I'm interacting with characters, or I'm asking questions. Why would they do that? What are they doing? And like weird things that I'm not allowed to do when I'm with other people. But it's like I need that space to be me. So go chain yourself up like a werewolf, and then go and be autistic, right? If you're a parent or provider or whatever of a neurodivergent individual, I cannot tell you how important this time is. It's something I've learned. With autistic burnout, which it's different because it is something that doesn't go away for a very long time, and it requires people to, and it sounds really difficult, but you take all expectations, everything off of them, and just let them rest. Because you have to imagine it's a lifetime of living in a way that is incongruent with how you've been made and operated. Eventually it catches up with you. And I actually think this is why there's such a high, so COVID happened, and I think a lot of people that were actually neurodivergent were realizing, like, I actually really like how this is, like, I'm distanced from people. I'm finally able to just be in my own space. I don't have to engage with this crazy, like, people-filled space. Like, there's so many things where we're like, like, because at least for myself, I loved that time. It was really good for me. I was looking around, everyone else that was like, losing their minds and mental health, and I'm like, this is fantastic. Anyway, I'm not disparaging anyone. I'm just saying that with COVID, I think it woke people up to this sense of like, oh, I think I need these things, or I need to look into this. I think a lot of people burnt out, like, and it gave them a place to just be themselves and to stop masking. And then they had to go back into that. And so all these people are starting to get these late diagnoses that were missed. And it's going to become more and more a thing in my mind, where people come to realize that they're autistic. I actually think autistic burnout, is a big reason why people are finding out they're autistic. Because when I saw my psychologist for many years on a regular, almost weekly basis, and nothing kind of got fixed. I mean, it got better, but what really changed was my diagnosis when I realized I was autistic. And when I stopped masking. That's when I stopped being anxious and depressed. So I think a lot of people are actually neurodivergent, who are depressed and living life, they just don't know it. And I think it's almost like a rite of passage that I think is going to happen to a lot of people, or an existential crisis where they they realize that this isn't working. So what happens is you burn out and then you die. Right? The self that was before no longer exists. It's pushed to exhaustion and it's done. So what does life look like now? What does life after this death look like? Well, for one thing, that is up to you. These choices, the way about going about it is entirely how you want to do it. What do you want it to be? What is important to you? What are your values? Those are questions I think you should look into and explore. We compare ourselves to everyone else, and we live in a culture of comparison. But with autistic individuals, we just want to be normal. I wish in the past, I wish I could be like this other guy who has a normal job, who can maintain that, who has a good relationship, who can have normal kids and normal this and normal that. That's what I thought I wanted. That all needs to die, right? It's never going to happen. You are never going to be like someone else, right? Especially neurotypical, but what you bring, who you are, how you act, all of those things in the world is unique to you. There will be no one else like you. And so bring that into the world and shine. Stop giving a crap what other people think of you, because guess what? They're not going to stay if you act like that. If you fully mask yourself. And if they do, and somehow you manage to do it, you will sacrifice yourself, who you are. And I don't think there's a greater cost than that. So stop living for other people. Stop dying for the sake of everyone else. Start living for yourself. And when you do that, when you live in line with your values, and when you go about living in the world how you were made to be, I promise that, well, I can't promise anything, but you will experience life in a way that, at least for myself, it's been absolutely amazing. I experienced joy, like real joy for the first time. And I like and love who I am. And I get to be me, because I just don't care. And this sounds harsh because I'm a literal thinker, but I don't care what other people think of me, because they don't understand or see the world in the challenges and things I've overcome and the place I've been and where I'm going. If they're not with me, if they're not able to journey with me in that, if they can't see me for me and value that, then I don't care anymore. I don't want them to be a part of my life, because I can't live that way. I can't be those things. And I just don't care. I don't want to do that. That's, I think, where we need to arrive, right? We need to be in a place where we are unashamedly me. There's a quote by, let me see if I can find it really quick. Albert Camus, who I've been quoting a lot, and he's in my video, or I quote in my, he's not in my video. I quote him in my video when I share about being autistic. And the quote is, see if I can find it. Trying to run internet while I'm doing a stream is challenging. So the quote is, oh, that's the wrong thing. You can do it. The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. I hate that me being my full authentic self feels like I'm living in rebellion of the world and its expectations. But I just don't care anymore. I don't want to be anything other than myself. And so I've been learning all of these things. I've been questioning my values. Because I think I have a lot to offer from this actual authentic self. I think it's more of what the world needs. They don't need more of other people, right? And so, anyway, I've been talking for a long time, very passionately, I think. And I'm also roasting in this hoodie under these lights. I don't know if anyone else is there. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts. Usually people don't. People aren't joining. They're just lurking or watching. But if there are, feel free to jump up, share your opinions or thoughts. Otherwise, I'm probably going to wrap up here. There's a lot more things I want to say, and I'm coming up with a video to articulate a lot of these things in a much more organized, much more linear, much more methodical way. But the too long didn't read, too long didn't watch is stop giving a crap what other people think of you. And I know how hard and selfish that sounds when you are basically trained, gaslit into being other than. But you're not going to be able to live how other people want you to. So at least that's been my experience. And I know for a lot of other autistic individuals, the young people that I interact with, they live in the fear of what they can't become. And they live in the fear, their parents hold the fear of what they can't become over these young people. And it breaks my heart because they don't see potential, they don't see hope, they don't see good things on the other side of it, right? And it sucks. But I think this change starts with yourself. When you can seriously sit with yourself and be like, what is important to me? Who do I want to be? Not looking at other people. That's not what I mean, right? What does it mean to be me? What is my unique me? And why do I not, where are areas that I don't bring that into the world? And can I do that differently if that's what's important? Yeah, I'm done with masking. I'm still struggling to learn, like there are things I do which, okay, so here's the caveat, right? I'll say I'm done with masking if it isn't in line with my values. So I'll still mask. For example, I might give someone eye contact, or I might nod my head when I'm talking, even though it doesn't make sense, because I value and respect another person and feel like that's what they need for me to feel like they are being heard or listened to. That's why I'll do it, not because I'm anything less, or that there's a different way of approaching it, you see. So yeah, I guess another thing would be to find your people. Find people like yourself who struggle with some of the same things, but also who have learned these skills, or who are learning these skills, or who, what I've learned with autistic individuals for the most part, I don't sense judgment. I don't sense, like, they see someone struggling with something and they just accommodate that struggle, or they try and understand it, but they don't sit there and say, why can't they figure it out? That has never been my experience. It's actually quite wonderful and refreshing. And when you're with your peers, you feel seen and understood. I think you need that time as well. In any case, this is a long chat. You could tell I'm very passionate about it, and I would love to talk more. But I'm getting pretty hot, and if no one else is going to join, I might call it here. So next Saturday is likely to be one of the worst possible events. I don't know. I foresee like the significance of how it's going to be very difficult and painful. And so because of that, I won't be streaming next week. I'm actually going to take that week off so that I can do some self-care, so I can, because I can't give out of what I don't have, and I'll need space to recharge. And I'm going to also be taking that approach probably in work and everything around me, because it's going to be difficult and it's going to be challenging. And I'm just telling you that because I want to stay consistent with this, because consistency, this is another thing that's helpful for me. Consistency, structure, routine helps me stay grounded, and being grounded helps me be in present reality, like the present. So I want to stay consistent with this. So if you don't see me next week, that's why. And I'll probably post about it as well. I hope that there's something in this that was valuable. I hope that there was something in this that rang true, that added something to your life. I share all these things because the overall message that I share with everyone, but especially those who are autistic, is that you're not alone. Excuse me. How you feel, how you experience, the wrestles you have, the feeling like you just want to be like other people, that you hate being in your own skin. I get it. Maybe not to the same level, but I have some understanding, and you are not alone. Those that have struggled with burnout and depression, I don't judge you. I get it. To the best of my ability, I get it. And I want to be there alongside you in it. And I hope that people in your life do the same, because the thing I didn't understand about feeling like a burden was why people were willing to do those things. People are willing to journey with you, to carry that load, because they love and value you and care about you. You are not alone. And so, I never know how to end these things. I hope that you all have a fantastic Sunday. I won't be around next week. I'll be around the weekend after. And hope something was of value. Hopefully you learned something. And until we meet again, take care, guys.
Over time they erode and destroy hearts of good souls in the